And I would like to call upon the following people for this panel discussion on the strategies for redevelopment of central business districts, CBDs in old cities. And can I request everyone to please welcome them with a big round of applause. Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani, Chairman, NAREDCO. Shri Harpal S. Dave, Additional Chief Town Planner, Government of Gujarat. Shrimati Reshma Dudani, Senior Executive Director, NBCC India Limited. Shri Subhakar Rao Surapaneni, Chairman, Champions Group. Shri Harshvardhan Bansal, President, NAREDCO, Delhi. And this discussion is going to be moderated by Shri Saurabh Mehrotra, Executive Director, V&A Services, Knight Frank.
As Niranjan Bhai joins, let me set the context. Well, Indian cities are no more just the administrative centers as they used to be about 50 years back. They are powerhouses. They have become from monocentric, they have become polycentric. Internationally, the CBDs have transformed, and they are no more CBDs. Actually, they have become central social districts with a vibrant mix of residential, commercial, retail, hospitality, everything coming together. But when we look at Indian cities, our CBDs have remained pretty much what they were, except for some amount of retrofitting which may have happened here and there. Though we have some very good examples of redevelopment taking place across the country, we have East Kidwai Nagar, we have Naroji Nagar, we have Mumbai Millland redevelopment, or the cluster redevelopment projects like Bhendi Bazaar, etc., which have kind of shown the way of how redevelopment can happen. But our CBDs have still, kept away from most of the redevelopment. Many times they are facing issues of fractured titles, heritage issues, etc. So I'll start with the visionary himself. Niranjan Bhai, what is your vision of a transformed CBD of a modern India? If you can, give the big picture.
Thank you very much for inviting me again on the stage. I'm looking at two basic aspects. The first aspect being, do we actually focus only on CBDs? Because India says, Aage dukaan, piche makan. We actually need CBDs which walk to work. The first paradigm has taken place in industry. The Prime Minister has cleared and the Finance Minister has supported that next to industry, housing should take place. Up till now, we made MIDC clusters of industrial, and kept workers 10 kilometers away from these industrial factories. This was the contradiction to what is done in China. So first, we need decentralization of CBDs. So you have multiple CBDs which will create islands of excellence throughout the area rather than just one center thing. That's the first. Second, transport, communication, and travel into and out of the CBDs is a challenge to every CBD, because we have a problem how to get into the CBDs in the morning and get out of the CBDs, and you are causing a problem in terms of congestion. So the first and foremost thing in the country we need to do, when you plan a CBD, you have to plan for the ultimate problem that you're creating by concentrating higher FSI, higher development in this, by making roads, metros, travel, communication to be rapid and clear into and out of the place. So CBD is fantastic. The Prime Minister has also recognized that we need to create clusters of excellence which will give rapidity of growth to GDP and income levels. And definitely GDPs in India, we have benefited from them, whether it is in Mumbai or it is in other cities in the country. These centers of excellence have definitely created prosperity. What we need to do is plan them well. So we are missing in the planning and execution of it. When we make the buildings first, people coming first, and the connectivity and mobility second. I think which comes first? The arrangement of mobility, connectivity, and then of course you can have as much as you are. So for instance, my son has built a 90-story tower in Dubai. It's only got 40 FSI, but there's no congestion. the road access connectivity, both in terms of metro as well as the road connectivity is adequate enough that. So you have to plan the CBD to do it. If you make a proper plan, no problem at all, create it. The other part is creating multiple CBDs, I think is also a good idea.
What we have also seen, say if we were to take an example of Mumbai, we saw a decline of South Mumbai. Then we saw significant infrastructure investments coming into the city, and suddenly the whole South Mumbai is probably one of the most attractive destinations. Recently, we brought in a 4-acre plot into the market for a government body, and we saw interest or competition between Indian developers, foreign private equity funds, and government bodies, all competing for that plot and paying a huge premium. Sir, I also note you have continued to maintain your office in South Mumbai in spite of developing the modern age real estate. What do you think is hampering the redevelopment of existing CBDs, and can heritage conservation and redevelopment, redensification go together? Is it really possible to actually go hand in hand?
See, there are 4 stages in which we have to think. The first is city level thinking. What do you want to do for your city? Whether it is Mumbai, whether it is Delhi, whether it is Gurgaon, whether it is Calcutta, whether it is Mysore, whether it is Kochi, it doesn't matter what the city is. The city has to think about what the broad planning of where the economic is working, where the people is staying, the quality of life that it wants, and the backup. Whether it is schools, colleges, hospitals, and other infrastructure, social shopping malls, and all the other things that we need to put as an integrated thing, and also new opportunities of manufacturing, IT, and other segments, including CBDs. That's the top level done. The second is the town planning part of it, which you talked about just now. The town planning part of it becomes extremely responsible because you have to marry the infrastructure with what you're going to build. Tomorrow, we give extra FSI. Are you going to have roads? Are you going to have water supply? Are you going to have gardens? What is the issue on that? So that's the second level planning that needs to be done. And we need to renew that every 5 years or 6 at an operational level. The third is the execution and funding level. So you have to have a proper guidance as to what you want to execute and how fast you want to execute. I'll give you one example for Mumbai because I come from there. For 65 years, I had 190 kilometers of suburban rail. Western Railway, Central Railway, Harbour Lines for those who know it. 190 kilometers 65 years ago. लेकिन 65 साल हम भूल गए मुंबई को. हमने 1 इंच भी नहीं बनाया. Flyovers बनाए लेकिन रेलवे नहीं बनाया. Now what are we doing? We are catching up on all the 65 years by doing 300 kilometers of metro in the next 2 years. 2 साल में जो हम 35 साल नहीं किए, हम 2 साल में कर रहे हैं. अच्छा है हम कर रहे हैं. नहीं तो 65 साल हम क्या कर रहे थे? We were bloody blind. What were the leaders doing? What were the politicians doing? What are the planners doing? What are the executors doing? What is who's doing? और construction हम करते गए. 2 बार हमने FSI डबल कर दी. अभी चौबल कर दी. So what was 1 FSI is now 4 FSI. But the road sizes had not increased. Now we are catching up on all that. We will spend 3 lakh crores in the next 5 years on metro, 3 kilometers. We are doing coastal road. We are doing a cross harbor bridge. We are putting a new airport. And before we put up the new airport, the 3rd airport is already planned. So for the first time in 65 years, the planning standards which we should have done over a period of 65 years is not done. So that is applicable to everything. Whether we do CBDs or we are doing industry or we are doing malls or we are doing other areas which you have done so beautifully in Gujarat. So all this requires a focus area at the 3-tier level. There's only one advantage we have today, sir, which we never had for last 65 years. Money is not a constraint. When we are building 35 kilometers of national highway a day, Mr. Gadkari tells me that paise ki koi kami nahi hai, execution ka problem hai. Are? हम तो समझते थे देश में पैसे नहीं है, लेकिन अभी पैसे हैं, दिमाग चलाओ, बिल्डर चलाओ, देश चलाओ, शहर चलाओ, पॉलिटिशियन चलाओ, ब्यूरोक्रेट चलाओ, टाउन प्लानर्स चलाओ, बिल्डर्स बनाओ, सब लोग बनाओ, लेकिन हम हमारा नैरो सोचते हैं। ये नैरो फोकस सोचो, प्राइम मिनिस्टर जैसे आत्मनिर्भर भारत बात कर रहे हैं वैसे ही सोचना करना है। आप लोग जो छोटी दिमाग से काम करते हैं कि हमें मुनाफा क्या मिलेगा ज्यादा एफएसआई करने से, वो भूल जाएं। और दिस इज नॉट ओनली फॉर प्राइवेट डेवलपर्स, गवर्नमेंट्स आर आल्सो मेकिंग दिस ब्लंडर्स। इन माय सीबीडी इन मुंबई, इफ आई वांट टू गो फ्रॉम वन बिल्डिंग टू द अदर, देयर आर टू प्लेसेस फॉर मैरिज हॉल्स, one Geo and there is a second Geo. One day I went with my wife for a marriage. I went to one at 5 o'clock in the evening. I finished that marriage going to the second hall. It is only 1.5 kilometers away. I took 50 minutes to go from one hall to the in-centered CBD. Now, we have made a cycling track in that. We spent 150-60 crores. Now we are breaking the cycle track because we want more place for cars. So the problem is, हमारा सोच अब तक छोटा रहा है, नैरो रहा है, हम सोच नहीं कर रहे। आप बड़े सोचो, लेकिन ग्राउंड लेवल पर कंप्लीट सोचना चाहिए। ये सरकार नहीं, प्राइवेट डेवलपर्स भी भूल करते हैं, हम भी भूल किया है, हमारे जूने मकानों में किया है, नए बिल्डिंग और प्रोजेक्ट्स में नहीं करते। लेकिन हम सबको ऐसे सोचना है, सरकार को भी सोचना है और प्राइवेट डेवलपर्स को सोचना है। एंड यूल बी सरप्राइज्ड, इन सम प्लेसेस आई फाइंड गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज आर इवन डूइंग बेटर जॉब देन प्राइवेट डेवलपर्स। मुझे बुरा लगता है क्योंकि मैं प्राइवेट काम करता हूँ, लेकिन फिर भी अच्छा लगता है कि देश की प्रगति इतनी अच्छी हो रही है। सो आई वेंट टू अयोध्या फॉर इंस्टेंस, दैट सिटी हैड नो फुटपाथ, भूलो गलियां भी एक छोटी थी। आज की तारीख में गया था ड्यूरिंग द प्रतिष्ठान, I walked on footpaths in Ayodhya. 10 kilometers of ghats, all the beautiful things. So it's not government. Even private developers are not paying attention. I think we all need to pay attention to all the segments of economy, including CBDs. I'm sorry I've given the big picture, but I meant CBDs included are making blunders because they are not planning well, and they need to plan for all the things 10 years ahead of the whole thing. When you do town planning, please think 10 to 15 years ahead, and the cars which are going to come in 10 years' time. Earlier, we used to produce 30,000 cars a year. I'm talking about 30 years ago. Today, we produce 1.6 million cars every year. One company, Maruti, produces 1.2 million cars per year. Just one company in India produces that car. Now, if you don't plan for roads and you keep on producing cars and allow people to use cars, and you're not planning for them, then you either stop manufacturing cars or allowing the cars, or you make roads and other transport facilities that are there. So we need to think of both. Private people are at fault, government is at fault, city province authorities are at fault. We need to rethink all these things are there. Money is not short. That is what Mr. Gadkari tells me, and even my chief minister, Devendra Fadnavis, told me the same thing. And the prime minister keeps on saying, because he talks about kitne lakh crore, I don't even know the figures, even though I'm a developer. Itne lakh, 10 lakh crore or 20 lakh crore hum kharcha karenge. So money is not a constraint. Dimag change karo. Hum Bharati hain. Hame soch badalna hai.
Thank you so much. Probably, Niranjan bhai, one final comment from you on one change that you would want to see if we really want to, transform our existing declining CBDs.
I'm sorry, I don't have one thing to really focus on, but I think we have to think big. I think those times when we were thinking small about ourselves, myself, one developer, one company, one location, one idea, I think those times are gone. We need to actually have holistic ideas of areas of excellence that we want to create, whether it is CBDs, whether it is education, whether it is health, whether it is anything. So when we are doing master planning of cities, or we are planning our townships and other things, I think people think about 2 years, 3 years and 4 years. I think now we have to start thinking 20 years, 30 years from today in order to get our minds and done, which is there. So unless we don't plan larger ways, of going on the macro objective, and at the same time the question of sustainability at the micro level should not be lost. So while we have a macro vision for a project, the micro vision of what I need as a footpath user, as a car user, as a traveler, as a visitor, these aspects are not taken into consideration. FSI एक बड़ा चीज हो गया है. All town planners and builders and government only think of one solution. I brought 1991 TDR into Mumbai. I was part of that committee. Thinking because government couldn't have money to acquire plot, they used TDR. अभी TDR सबके चीज ले लिया है. हम 4 FSI देते हैं, 1 FSI अलाउड है, 3 FSI का गवर्नमेंट पैसे लेते हैं. So the question is, you have to start thinking beyond one aspect of it, whether it's developers doing townships and buildings and others, or government looking at it. I think they are micro thinking and not macro thinking. I think that thinking has to change. If you change your thinking, your result will be correct. Your thinking is not changing. You're still living 30 years ago and trying to work for today.
Sir, I think the question is that when we are doing a mega development, why don't we also plan for, a township level public transport system as a part of the project?
Not township, like
the
builder, along with the flat, they will give so many buses, very good quality buses. As sir was telling that, why don't you stop production of the cars? We will ask them to produce good buses, so that, yeah.
So there are islands of excellence in the country, and there are maybe 20 townships in the country which are extraordinary, built by private developers also. But yes, the repetition and repetitivity of what we need to do should be scaled up to 10,000, not 10 or 20 quality townships that we see. So we can show you 10 excellent townships which are second to none in the whole world. Maybe can compete with anything in Dubai also. But 10 is not sufficient for India. India needs 10,000 of them. So we need to really scale what you're asking for, and should be done not only by the developers, but also by the government, and also by local authority, and also by various other agencies which look at everything. You go to Gujarat and go to Gift City, for instance. The entire city development is done very beautifully and excellently in terms of infrastructure, water, roads, transport, communications, metro. Everything is being done close to the airport and other things. So it's not that things are not happening. The question is, the country needs it, not 5 or 10 good townships. What our friend Sardarji was asking over here, he wants to know everywhere that you're going to do development, what are we going to do? And that is the challenge. So the challenge is not about that we don't know how to do it. We know everything. हमारे पास सब दिमाग है, हम जानते हैं कि अच्छा काम करना है. जहां हमको अच्छा रोड बनाना है, हम जानते हैं कैसे बनाना है. ऐसे नहीं है. So we know everything. The question is, we don't implement. We now need to implement at all levels. So what you're asking is correct. Builders, private developers, government, local authority, state governments, everybody should do better. Authorities, housing boards, etc. should all be doing what you say.